right. Minnesota's first marijuana license lottery will be delayed amid multiple lawsuits challenging the regulators. That's right. A Ramsey County judge has ordered Minnesota cannabis regulators to delay the first cannabis license lottery that was set for today. Judge Stephen Smith, after an hour-long hearing on 4 lawsuits filed against the Office of Cannabis Management, decided to delay the lottery to give 4 parties time to appeal to the State Court of Appeals. All 4 had sued to stop the lottery over claims that they had been wrongfully denied entry into the lottery. OCM last Monday notified 2/3 of the 1,800 certified social equity applicants that they would not be moving into the lottery. And on Friday, it set the first lottery for 280 licenses for today. Social equity applicants are individuals who are in groups that legislature stated suffered disappropriately from marijuana prohibitions. Beth, who called the case both interesting and urgent, issued an order that was both in response to plaintiffs' fear that clients would be harmed if they missed the lottery and the state's argument that the district court lacked jurisdiction. He said he would issue a stay of the cases to allow the 4 plaintiffs and perhaps others to ask the Court of Appeals to rule on whether the OCM followed the law. Said it requires the court to make a decision on very short notice with limited information. At this point, going to stay the matter and have the appellate court review the decisions that have been made. With that, there's no lottery tomorrow, Smith said yesterday, and the matter will go to the appellate court, and the appellate court can exercise its jurisdiction in determining how this matter should move forward, he added. 4 sets of plaintiffs represented a variety of applicants who received denial notices. Both stated that the OCM did not provide required explanations for the denials or had not previously requested applicants to correct problems in their applications. One case, Arengues Connolly versus Office of Cannabis Management, involved an applicant that had signed an agreement with a third party to sell the business. That, state lawyers argued, was similar to 200 other applicants that ran afoul of state law that requires the applicants to be the owners and controllers of any license. The OCM said it blocked many applications it suspected were using social equity certified applicants to win licenses that would then be controlled by others, so-called straw purchasers. The basis for denial ultimately is you have to disclose who actually is in control of the entity, an Assistant Attorney General Oliver Larson. If you can be forced to sell your entity to someone else, you are not in control. If someone else is funding your application, you are not in control. Fundamental failure here is they were trying to hide the fact that these 2 plaintiffs were not the true party of interest, Larson said, calling it a part of an illegal scheme. David Asp, the attorney for Christina Arengues and Jody Connolly, said the agreement they made with another entity allowed for the sale only if it was allowed by state and regulators approved by the OCM. That, he argued, would make it allowable and did not constitute a legal requirement to sell license if won at the lottery. Other plaintiffs were applicants who say they were not given adequate explanation for their denials. All asked to halt the lottery because they would suffer irreparable harm if they missed the special lottery for social equity applicants and had to try again next year in the general lottery that is expected to have many more applicants. Courtney Ernston, a lawyer for several denied applicants, described one who paid $5,000 to enter the lottery and would have to pay an additional $5,000 next year. He described another who asked for a cannabis transporter license, who, because there were fewer applicants than licenses available, would have won a license had they not been denied last week. The best case scenario is that this court must issue this temporary restraining order and stop the lottery from happening tomorrow, Ernston said yesterday. That would give time for additional briefing by lawyers and another hearing. We've got a lottery happening tomorrow that we found out about Friday, and it just can't happen, Ernston said. State lawyers argued that the legislature purposely set up an expedited process in order to provide social equity applicants a head start, prepare to enter the business when final OCM rules are adopted next spring. The law also allows cultivators to put seeds in the ground as soon as they receive pre-approval licenses, which was meant to get cannabis products ready for sale when stores open. Law, argued Lawson, said the Assistant Attorney General did not allow appeals such as cases in court on Monday. The legislature understood that in order to get through hundreds of applicants, make decisions, hold the lottery, and start this process in a matter of a few months was going to mean there was going to be a truncated review, Larson said. It specifically said there would be no appeals of denials for the same reason. Larson said that if the social equity lottery is delayed, OCM could be forced to cancel it and put all applicants, social equity and general applicants, into the same lottery next year. That is a real harm to the 600 or so folks who put in an application and did what they were supposed to do and are ready to go through the lottery process, Larson said. In addition, Assistant Attorney General Ryan Petty told Smith that the district court lacked jurisdiction and that the cases have been filed at the Court of Appeals. He called the fact that the cases were filed in district court a fatal defect and asked Smith to dismiss the 4 cases. But Asp and others argued that the OCM did not follow the law when it did not issue deficiency letters to all applicants with gaps in their applications and then denied 2/3 of the applicants with limited or non-existent explanation. Asp said, the law says that if they deny, they must notify the applicant of the denial and basis for the denial. This seems sympathetic to the assertion that without a stay, the plaintiffs would suffer, and also to the argument that district court judges such as himself lack jurisdiction to rule. That can be determined by the Court of Appeals, but such a pathway would not be available if the court didn't stay the lottery, he said. 8 lawyers, however, had argued that he didn't even have the authority to do that much. David Standa, an attorney for another plaintiffs, pointed out that if the lottery was allowed to proceed today and the Court of Appeals found OCM in violation of the law, a different set of problems would be created. But if the Court of Appeals came back and said, yeah, all these people need to be in the lottery, Standa said, is the OCM going to take away pre-approvals from everyone it issued them to and then rerun the lottery with the people who were supposed to be in it? OCM issued a media statement Monday after responding to Smith's ruling and also said the lottery and statement by interim director Charlie Briner were canceled. Briner broke down those who will receive denial notices into 4 groups. Those who failed to meet the qualifying standards set up by the state law, those who failed to provide the documents required to verify they met qualifications, despite OCM's attempt to give them an additional opportunity, those with inconsistencies in ownership requirements and true party of interest provisions, and those who appeared to be engaging in fraud, what she called zone flooders. We saw a couple of 100 applications that were virtually identical, including the business plans and the projected profits for the first year, Briner said. There were multiple people with the same address. They were using a domain name that is unregistered and inactive. Some have a phone number that ties back to the same individual. Briner joked that they were so brazen she thought, are you kidding me? Another OCM discovery of bad actors, all out-of-state applicants, came via a tip from a whistleblower who had been approached to recruit people to submit applications and then paid off if they won the lottery. State law does not allow the purchase of pre-approval licenses and includes provisions to slow or prevent license transfers. While we are disappointed by the decision to prevent OCM from moving forward with the license pre-approval lottery tomorrow, we stand by the process used to review applications, said the OCM yesterday. Minnesota's approach has always aimed to protect the integrity of social equity license, and the rigorous review also allowed us to identify and prevent bad actors from entering the system. Each statute sets high standards for applicants to successfully complete applications while also filtering out those with malicious intent. OCM concluded, we remain committed to launching an equitable, sustainable, and responsible adult use cannabis market in Minnesota. Doesn't sound that way. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News, and do we think Minnesota will get its shit together, or will this be another licensing debacle due to bad actors and poor social equity planning? What do you guys think?
This is going to be a total debacle.
I think Minnesota's actually doing a pretty decent job, and I actually appreciate that they've done something that other markets have yet to do, which is go ahead and get the bad actors out of there, actually look into who's owning these companies, who's, submitting the same applications over and over again, and all these people who dial for dollars and tell people, oh, did you know that you can be a social equity applicant so that I can have this license? So I think that's the one win that I can see for Minnesota. I reported on it last week, and I enjoy that.
Are you saying that they've been pulling all the weeds out of their program, Jenny Beth?
I think that they've drained the swamp, Jason.
They're draining the swamp. Man, interesting. Maybe Jack Smith, since he's not doing anything else, he can take up this issue.
I think it's really interesting, too, that since the people who weren't able to pull their bamboozlement across aren't in the lottery, now all of a sudden lottery has to be stopped. And I think it would be an absolute shame if they have to stop the lottery and do traditional and social equity applicants at the same time, because that defeats the spirit of social equity.
It definitely does, yes. I seem to get a real social equity program off the ground anywhere in the United States. No? Why do you think?
Because they don't intend to. Because they don't intend to.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
Yarrow, a fun phrase, right, to say to the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yarrow, what do you have to say about this, Yarrow? I see you just holding back right now.
I'm conflicted. Oh, on
boy.
one hand, there's some, do we blame people for exploiting loopholes? We do that with our taxes, and we feel proud of ourselves. And on the other hand, the fact that they're doing this vetting is super refreshing to me. And the fact that they're talking about what does ownership actually mean, and if you are, if you're in a position where you sign a contract where at some future date you're going to have to sell to somebody, does that qualify for control? It gave me goosebumps, really, because there are a lot of problems with these programs, and it seems like they're trying to do something about a lot of those problems, and that they're looking at the issues from other programs and the rollouts of those other programs and trying to make those adjustments appropriately. When I heard the thing about the business plan being identical and stuff like that, two things came to mind, because I have these little parrots on either shoulder.
Oh boy.
The first one was like, hey, wouldn't you file share and wouldn't you replicate and wouldn't you be like, hey buddy, I'm shooting mine in District 4. What do you got? Hey, let me borrow your document. And the other part of me is like, okay, there are these mills where people are just trying to take advantage of economy of scale and just shoot out as many as they can with these applicants. And there is an exploitative underbelly to this that is in conflict with what these programs, I believe, were intended to accomplish. So I hate to start the day this way, but I 100% agree with Jenny.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that smile on Jenny's face. Oh my goodness.
I mean, listen, I understand exploiting loopholes, but I think the fact that there weren't loopholes there and that people got caught and now they're all pissed off and want to stomp their feet is frustrating to me. And I shout out to you, Minnesota, for actually trying to shut this down and trying to do something about it before you give these people licenses, because shout out to them for actually reading the fucking business plans that they're requiring people to submit.
Right. That's right.
Shout out to reading.
Is the lottery the best way to do this? Everyone fills out an application and you pick a name out of a hat, right?
I mean, the reason why people do a lottery is to avoid
lawsuits, right?
Of favoritism and that they weren't somehow influenced by whoever had come into their office most frequently, dropped off,
or make it seem that way, at least. Well,
that didn't work.
Create the illusion, huh, Saman?
Sure. It also didn't work in Illinois.
Like a turb genie.
It's all about the illusion of fairness. This is America, after all, guys. So we know how it works.
Are you saying that America is all about illusion, Saman?
No, I'm saying that we Houdini the reality we want to see, and Minnesota is no different. Here's the reality. In literally every state, from let's say when Florida became legal, this was a perfect example of how these organizations that go in, they find the right type of people to help bolster their application, and they might make that same mirrored application in every area, every county, every sector, however that state has segmented and bifurcated like the application zones or whatever. That is how it goes. This is how it's gone everywhere. And just because Minnesota says this and stopping this doesn't mean that they don't have a surreptitious situation going on, and we'll see who owns the licenses at the end of the day. But as as a license holder in a state that's been mired in like conflict like this and has had serious legal repercussions and ramifications, all that does is just holds up the system for everyone else and for access. Now, there are some people in Minnesota that are currently operating. So what this does is it gives them an advantage. Now, whether you want to say free market incorporates everyone getting to the market at the same time to be able to see who does better work. Hey, I have the best quality product at the best price, and it's, and that's it. Now it's creating a lopsided situation just because we're overanalyzing the applicants in a way that, maybe they don't like the fact that they applied more than once. Maybe they don't like the fact that there's multiple people on the same applications. But, is that something that's like damning? Is that a damning fact? I think the issue isn't just the social equity piece. It's that they're jumbling all of this up together, and that's kind of like you're fumbling the opportunity. You're marginalizing the people that are marginalized even more now. So I don't know. It's sad. It's sad that we haven't gotten like a systematic way to get this done. Politics still reign and rule over all of these states. So
the truth is, what's the matter with making that your business plan? I'm going to go get a license, and I'm going to sell it for a profit.
Exactly.
Why does the government care? Who cares?
It's not a problem until it's a social equity license that wasn't set for you, right? Because the people who are doing that, they're not going out and saying, hey, let me go get this opportunity and I can, restore what the wrongs that have been done to me due to the war on drugs.
Yeah, they're like, let me exploit this guy.
One big payoff, isn't that restoring?
Hold on, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening because I spend the majority of my time working with these applicants. I almost exclusively work with social equity right now, other than the licenses that I operate. So I think that the issue is that it's a group of people who are not going to ever qualify for social equity. A lot of these people are very unscrupulous people, and they're going around and finding people, and they're like, hey, here's the deal. I'm going to put your name on this license. I'm going to give you this little piss-ass salary for however long it is until I can assume your equity. And so it's not that's not the equity applicant's business plan. It's the asshole's business plan.
Keeping up with the Joneses.
And Todd, you're absolutely right. Like, we don't want to restrict trade. We don't want to restrict social equity applicants' ability to quickly exit and to take a couple chips off the table and to not fall into that hype around intergenerational wealth and then everybody has to be able to buy their own island in the Bahamas because they opened up a single dispensary. But what Jenny is speaking to is the way in which these programs are gamed so that people who aren't even social equity are benefiting and creating wealth for themselves through these programs, typically at the detriment of the social equity applicants. I'm a social equity applicant in San Francisco. I wish I had taken the base hit and taken some chips off the table. Instead, I took the long, slow road to basically nowhere, and along the way have nothing but crow's feet and gray hair to show for it. But
you get that computer.
When I was offered the opportunity to participate in some of these other markets out of state where there wasn't a residency requirement, I don't know. It just didn't feel right for me personally. Like, no disrespect to those that did choose to participate, but it wasn't in my backyard. My harms weren't in that area, even though I qualified and I was solicited by people who were looking for people who had sort of the CV or the arrest record that I had. There was something about it that felt a little exploitative about coming into a market to benefit from the opportunities that market was going to be creating. And so I think that's really, it's like, who are the recipients of the wealth that is created through these opportunities? And when the social equity person gets gamified and they become the smallest part of that, instead of the master of their own domain, win, lose, or draw, whether their business is successful or flops, it does feel like sharecropping in 2024.
Yeah, I mean the rule that creates that in a lot of instances, and maybe it's not a rule, but it's like they want to see operator experience in a lot of these applications. And if you don't have that experienced operator on your team, and you're a social equity applicant that maybe has a history, it's like that doesn't preclude you necessarily, but it doesn't necessarily grant you, your license in a way that's like, oh, hey, we obviously deserve this. It's like the grading scale also is not, I don't think is actually correct to be bifurcated state to state. They need to come up with a standardized metric and say, hey, these are the things. But also, who's going to win those conversations? Who's going to win that, the race with experience? It's going to be the people that have been in business. It's going to be the people that are spending the money right now lobbying these states. It's unfortunate, but that's exactly how it works. And
it's going to be the people with the best lawyer. That's who.
Yeah, if you don't like it and you wanna do that, then you need to like be a proponent for the small guys. You need to start donating money to like these social equity campaigns in these states so that they can have like some kind of head start with a crowdsourced funding campaign that's going to
I see what you did there, Simon, the Head Start program. I see what you did there. That was cute.
The problem with the Head Start as an intangible benefit to social equity licensees and operators is that these entitlement permitting programs tend to take much longer than they were intended to take. And so that Head Start ends up being next to nothing or practically immeasurable. And so when you got somebody like Kika Keith that took 1,000 days to get her dispensary open in Los Angeles, those Head Starts end up becoming nothing. And so Simon is right. On paper, that Head Start, that first to market can be an amazing opportunity. In reality, most social equity markets are just filled with so many inefficiencies as they allow people to go out there and become operators that those Head Starts end up becoming nothing. Personally, I believe that social equity applicants should have tax relief.
Yep.
I feel like that crosses the bipartisan divide. If your ass got taxed in the past, why do you got to get taxed today? If you had to be in handcuffs before the industry was an industry, why do you have to be shackled to the tax structure that everybody seems to think is going to pay for every other societal ill that we haven't found a funding source for? So I would love to see programs. I mean, I've even heard the most harebrained things. In San Francisco, they said, we're going to tax the industry, we're going to create a fund, and then we're going to lend it to social equity operators. And I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. You're going to take more money from the entire industry, then you're going to lend it, which means that you're charging interest, and you're going to give it back to the people most impacted already. I don't know how many languages I can say go fly a kite in, but let me start to begin that. And so I think that really tax relief and those kinds of things that maybe, if not permanent, have a very long tail on them is a way to give these businesses an advantage. Because if you say that someone's going to get first to market and then you're mired with missteps, that first to market ends up typically not being much of anything.
Well, Brian,
100%. And I guess I'm having trouble today because I'm have to agree with fucking Yarrow again. This is going to be
holy shit. I can't believe
welcome
it.
to this story, by the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I covered the part about them kicking all the applicants out last week. It was a lovely story. I think Yarrow and I agreed on that one too. I think speaking to what Simon was saying about the license process, and if you're going to do a lottery, it shouldn't be a merit-based application, right? It should just be a straightforward application because that makes it very difficult. If you're going to have a merit-based application process, then you don't really need a lottery because you're weeding people out based on qualifications and based on merits, correct? So, I mean, and there are people who will go on your license. I'm on so many fucking applications. I don't take a percentage of equity. I don't take a fucking dollar, but my operational experience is now linked to your application because I am in fact advising you. So I am helping you create your operational structure and your standards and training you. And so there are people who will do that, but that's few and far between. And when we look at these, some of these social equity groups and some of these incubators, that's a large problem also with the money that's thrown into the pot to be portioned off, because I'm sure Yarrow can tell you, they will take your money and run it up and leave you on your ass without it. So, I think that we just need to be very careful, especially in the minority community. Pay attention because not all of these people look like what you think they look like. Pay attention to every time a state's like, here comes a social equity program, who's throwing those fucking events that wants your name and your address and your conviction information. Look at those things because not everybody is a good actor and a lot of people are there to take advantage of you, and they're mining those names so that they can throw as many things in the hat so that they can win, not you.
Yeah.
Typically, they look exactly like you would hope they would look as if they were an ally. Typically, the people who are doing this are wolves in sheep's clothing. It's called wolves in
sheep's clothing, Yarrow.
That's right. And so it's terrible. It's exploitative, and it usually comes along with. I mean, I run in the opposite direction anytime somebody drops the term intergenerational wealth. To me, that's like a red flag. That's like the slimy uncle at the birthday party that you're worried about and you don't want to have around your kids. Like, it just...
Aren't you that guy?
Well, Brian Dombrowski says in the chat, he says the Farm Bill is the real social equity program, you guys.
Yeah, that part, Brian.
Nonsense, hogwash.
Yarrow, you're right. And it's unity in the community, shit like that. Like, pay attention to those people because they're not unifying shit.
Hey,
all those culture vultures, huh, Jenny?
I be playing the UNITY.
Oh boy, yeah.